Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm all about making nutrition and feed formulation simple and fun for our furry friends. Today we are going to talk about a question I get all the time. How do you decide which animal food is better when their nutrient composition looks similar? The answer: it's all about understanding dry matter versus as fed basis. Which brand of food would you choose from here? Brand A or brand B? So of course you're gonna look at the label, at the guaranteed analysis, right? So their protein here for brand A is 30%, for brand B is 25%. We have fat content, fiber content, and moisture. And you already know the most expensive nutrient is protein. That's why usually when we are buying animal food or let's say ingredients, we look at their protein level because it's really important for us, right? So here, as you can see, brand A food looks like it has more protein, like 30% protein compared to brand B, which is 25%. But their moisture level is different, right? So we need to do some calculation to understand this better. But before diving into the calculations, let's talk about as fed versus dry matter. So in this picture on the left side, you can see, a composition of a food or ingredient which has 90% dry matter and 10% water or moisture. So it is based on as fed. As fed means the form of the feed that you are feeding it to your animals. So let's say if you take a sample from the feeder, it is as fed form. Versus dry matter means you have dried it out, in an oven, let's say at the lab at let's say 80 degrees centigrade for overnight, and you've got completely dried sample. So in that case, the moisture is gone. And if we have like 90 grams of dry matter, it is 100% dry matter. There is no water in it. That's why it's really important to understand the difference between as fed and dry matter analysis. So here is the deal. As fed percentage can be misleading because they include the water content in the food. And water, as you know, takes up a lot of space without adding any nutrients like proteins or amino acids to the feed. But dry matter bases, on the other hand, tells us what is actually in the food when you take the water out. That's what we care about. Whenever you are buying, you know, ingredient for your flock or for your herd, so you are not paying money to purchase water. You are paying money to buy dry matter of that food, like corn, like soybean meal. So, because that dry matter contains nutrients like protein. So that's why it's really important to measure the moisture level, and see what's the dry matter of that food that you are paying for. So let's do some calculation to see how we can really, convert nutrient concentrations based on as fed to dry matter or vice versa. So here I'm gonna use this grape and raisin analogy to describe, the difference between dry matter and as fed. So let's say grape is the as fed form, but raisin here is the dried grapes. So it is like dried uh, materials, or let's say it's based on dry matter. So to convert from nutrient concentration on as fed basis, when you see on the label of a pet food, or let's say any other animal's food, into nutrient concentration based on the dry matter basis, you need to divide that nutrient concentration by dry matter content of the food. So let's say if the crude protein of the food is 9.53% AFB, AFB means as fed basis, and let's say the dry matter is 68.94%. So in that case, what you need to do is just divide the protein level as fed basis by the dry matter content, which is here 68.94%. It's going to give you 13.84% protein. So it shows that whenever you are seeing 9.53% crude protein on the label, it is based on as fed. If you convert it to dry matter, it's gonna translate to 13.84%, which is going up, right? You are converting from as fed to dry matter basis. Let's use this grape analogy. When you are drying grapes, so converting it to raisin, which form is more sweeter? Of course, the raisin, right? Because the moisture is gone. And now it's like concentrated nutrients. It's the same analogy here. But if you are going to convert from dry matter basis to as fed basis, then you need to multiply your number by the dry matter content. Let's say if you are looking at a nutrient composition of feedstuff table and you see, okay, the protein level of a feed ingredient is 13.84% based on the dry matter, and you want to see what would it be for as a fed basis. Then you need to multiply it by the dry matter content, which gives you here 9.53% protein based on as fed. So, coming back to our question, which brand of food would you choose from these two bags? So let's crunch some numbers. For brand A, the protein in dry matter basis would be 30% divided by 98% dry matter, which is 30.6%. So here, as you can see, 30% protein showed up on the label is based on as a fed. What's the level of moisture? 2%. So you need to subtract it from 100 to get the dry matter. So 100 minus 2 is 98% dry matter. And then divide the protein level by dry matter. It's going to give you 30.6% protein. And if you do that for brand B, so what's the moisture level? 30%. It means that 70% is dry matter. So the level of protein, 25% divided by 70%, it's gonna give you 35.7% protein. So the actual protein concentration based on the dry matter of brand B feed here is 35%, which is higher than brand A. But just looking at their label, it was misleading. We were thinking maybe brand A is better. So it's, let's say, for pet food, but it's the idea is the same for other ingredients we are using to make, uh, overall animal feeds. That's why whenever you are getting, you know, feed ingredients, let's say corn, wheat, or protein ingredients, the first thing you need to do is to see the moisture level and calculate the dry matter because it's important. You are paying money for the dry matter, not for water. Sometimes, let's say during the transportation, let's say a truck of corn was traveling, in a rainy weather, and for some reasons, the load got wet. So now you are getting that load and you see, okay, the moisture level is high. Not only it's gonna affect your, economy, but also it's gonna affect your storage condition because the wet feed is more prone to, mold buildup, which is going to compromise our animals' performance. So the bottom line is always pay attention to the feed analysis to see if it is based on as fed or based on dry matter. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to share this video with your fellow pet parents. When I'm talking about pet, it's not only, our pets at home. It's gonna be farmers' animals on their farm. They are like pet as well for uh, farmers. And that's why we need to pay more attention to their nutrition. Okay, see you next time and happy feeding.